Welcome to my super secret channel, Mind for Stories. This is my first video, so prepare to just cringe along with me. Today I want to explore pleasantries in the first episode or the first chapter of The Good Place. So I suppose I'll start with a few pleasantries myself.
Who are you? What did you do for a living?
I have been studying story, writing, film, and folklore for so long now that I've nearly ruined my own ability to be transported by a good story. After learning about YouTube channel Cinema Therapy and then the work of Vanessa Zoltan, who she talks about and writes about and podcasts about reading as a sacred practice, I decided I would see if I could do some of my own meaning mining and making with episodes of TV shows I love. I am what is considered a eudaimonic viewer, meaning I basically am always looking for more insight, deeper meanings in the stories that I engage with, the TV shows, movies, books I read. So inspired by Vanessa Zoltan, who proposes, I think she might be proposing something else somebody else proposed, but trying to learn from the text rather than about it. And it's what I'm going to attempt to keep myself focused on here in these videos. For any of you who have not watched The Good Place, I'm likely to spoil the entire series. I know I'm going to spoil the entire series for you. If you don't want that to happen, please go watch the show. You can always come back. I'm not going to summarize episodes here. I'm just too lazy and I don't want to. Alright, so jumping in, I watched this first chapter with an eye for pleasantries, meaning the inconsequential comments that are part of polite small talk. Here is Michael giving his "you're dead" sort of rehearsed speech he gives to each of the humans.
You, Eleanor Shellstrom, are dead. Your life on Earth has ended, and you are now in the next phase of your existence in the universe.
I'm trying to imagine what it must be like to be on the receiving side of that speech. And I don't really want to imagine it for myself, so I'm going to try and put myself in Eleanor's seat here. As Eleanor, I can feel my survival instincts sort of kicking in, which is weird. If I'm already dead, what am I trying to survive? Do we have, once we're dead and in, what they're telling us is the good place, do we still have physiological body reactions? And I assume we do, because we see people, eating lots of frozen yogurt and having, sexual relationships here in the good place. So yes, and I think that means that my heart might do the thing where it jumps up and then sort of thumps a little too fast for a moment, because I'm realizing I was wrong about whether or not there was an afterlife, and I'm concerned about what is about to happen to me. And because I'm worried about what's about to happen to me, that means I'm also ignoring sort of this implicit admission that my concerns bring up, which is the only reason to be concerned is because I wasn't a good person. But I don't have time for that self-reflection. I need more information so I can develop a strategy. Yeah, I can see how this moment would bring up a lot internally for I think just an average person, but especially for Eleanor. But she keeps it under wraps very well.
How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. Oh, one question. Where am I? Who are you and what's going on?
Eleanor quickly proves to be the sort of person who's quick to jump to the point. So while it plays like it's pleasantry, these questions she asks.
So who was right? I mean, about all of this.
Sort of like just she's expressing an idle curiosity to Michael. We know this is not at all inconsequential, polite conversation. This is information that matters, not just because she's new to this next phase of her existence, but because she's just been told that she's here in the good place, and she has reason to believe that she might not be where she's supposed to be right now. And then we're on to sort of the event that is all encompassing Pleasantry, the orientation presentation. And I just want to jump to this part.
They think to themselves, who cares? No one's watching. We were watching. Surprise!
So Michael is, he's in the orientation video. He's explaining the point system, which is not made up. So here's my first big spoiler. Michael is torturing the humans. He's a demon. But the point system is not part of the torture, is just true. He is explaining the point system that decides, if you're going to the good place or the bad place, every single thing you do, whether or not other people know about it, the points know about it, and it gets reflected. And then, to sort of go off on a tangent here, we later find out no one is beginning into the good place, not in hundreds of years. No one in the good place is thinking to look into why there are no new people coming. I think part of that is because of how time works there. I'm not 100% unsure on that. But we also see nobody who works in sort of the system that, operates the points has thought to look at it. The only person before the, Eleanor, Michael, and the group who seems to have noticed is Sean, because he's getting all the people. So Michael, Eleanor, and company, they start scrambling for answers. But by the time they get in front of the judge again, they aren't really lawfully abiding beings by this time. So all the information they have is now suspect. But no one can fix things that no one knows about. So the idea that a source of information must be perfect or above reproach or flawless before it's at all considered, it's really just a way for everyone to be kept in the dark. I mean, Michael believes what he notices what Sean says, and that is why they look for answers. So if we can just learn to sit with thoughts that come from people we don't agree with, examine what they present, we can maybe get to the true things that are behind them or hiding inside them. All right, I'm going to stop the tangent now. I feel like when Eleanor first meets Chidi, that's when we get the most genuine sort of pleasantries, the getting to know yous.
So where are you from, Chidi?
She asks him where he's from, starts a conversation, but then she very quickly moves into self-disclosure, wrapping Chidi into this situation with her. So while I'm not as bad as Eleanor on Earth when it comes to pleasantries.
Hi there. Do you have a second to talk about the environment?
Do you have a second to eat my farts?
I definitely have not in my life had a high opinion of them as a thing. I always felt they were more like space fillers where silence could be perfectly acceptable. But watching this show, looking for pleasantries, I'm actually seeing how it's much more about an exchange of pertinent information. It's introductions, it's background information. It's the thing that shapes the dynamic between people in communication.
Hi there. How can I help you?
And here is Eleanor deflecting blame.
We don't know this is because of me.
And I considering what I just reflected on with what pleasantries, what purpose they serve, what their functions are, I kind of see this moment as the opposite of a pleasantry, because it's not conveying information so much as trying to obscure the truth. This line, though, we don't know it's because of me. I feel like I think this whenever I've made some mistake, and then there's a bigger consequence or fallout that follows up that may or may not have had anything to do with my mistake. But then I catch myself, I don't know if it was because of me, but it really doesn't matter at that point, because the very fact that I made a mistake at all, it keeps the thought in my head. So I think it's really better to just take accountability, because once you do that, you address the issue and you can find a solution, and it doesn't plague your mind as much after you've done that. And I think that's my biggest issue here with what Eleanor's doing. She can't get to the part where she fixes the issue until she stops ignoring that there is one. So I have to ask, if Chidi was the one to say, we don't know it's because of you, like, I don't know that that would still count as a pleasantry because it's still more about obscuring the truth, but it would at least be polite. Um, but I feel like it's something maybe Chidi would say if he were talking to anyone other than Eleanor. But because of how selfish he knows Eleanor to be, he cannot be generous and give her the benefit of the doubt. What do you think? Do you see this sort of dynamic of him being less generous in that moment because of her selfishness? Do you relate to that? I don't know. Tell me in the comments.
It was your job, right? A professor of ethics? No one knew I was a problem when I arrived. Things only started getting crazy after I was an ashhole to everyone at the party.
And again, because of the pleasantry portion of Eleanor and Chidi's first getting to know each other, Eleanor knows Chidi was a professor of ethics when he was alive. So, beneficial information for her. But my question is, I've seen enough conversations in the more recent years online about people talking about when they are good at something and people around them will ask them to do it for them for free or with short notice or for little pay. And that's sort of a weird thought to have entered my head, but is it any more or less, appropriate or acceptable that Eleanor asked this of Chidi considering his background as a professor of ethics? Because my first thought would be that it's all about the stakes, because Eleanor's not asking, please make this cake for free for this major event that's tomorrow and I gave you not enough time. She's not asking for him to act in something for exposure. She's asking him to help her be a better person so that she doesn't spend all of eternity being tortured. So I think maybe that's why it's harder for me to think in terms of, whether or not it's fair to ask somebody based on what they're good at, and more about, what's at stake, and also accepting that people are completely still within their rights to say no, no matter what the stakes are. Right? But I don't know. I noticed the thought enter my head, so I figured I would ask. I'm not sure that it makes sense to be thinking about it, but it came up. Anyway, I want to acknowledge Chidi and people like Chidi who do take the time to help others, even or maybe especially when they aren't certain the person is going to prove themselves worthy of the time and effort it takes to help them, because it's generous. And my hope for those of you who are like Chidi and do choose to help somebody who is questionable, I hope that it pays off. I hope you get those moments of gratification when you see improvement and growth in people, when maybe you were genuinely being a little, a doormat and you didn't want to say yes, but you did say yes. And I hope you get those wonderful moments of seeing that you made the right choice. So I don't know if you guys are picking up on it, but I am actually already losing my voice because I talk that infrequently in my real life. So I'm going to wrap it up, and you can go ahead and contradict me in the comments. I love new perspectives. Don't hold back. And I look forward to hearing what you think. Have a good day.
I can only play you a brief audio clip of what is happening there right now.